Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this installment of Saturday morning webinars. And today's topic is a little departure from our usual fare of running templates and explaining what's going on. Today is a little more creative, and it's all about writing your own template. How can you create your own template in the software? That's something that a lot of people ask, and it's rare that I've talked about this. I think there's been one video that's been done in the past that you could find on YouTube, but it's been quite a while ago and definitely due for an update. So kind of looking forward to getting into this. Quite a lot to get through today. The disclaimer, obviously, as always, and the key points, etc. So we're talking about templates, and as I sent a note in the week, there is now 107 templates in EdgeRater. And that's a result of me creating a brand new template every month for the last 6.5 years. And it's gotten to the point where we now have over 100 that do all kinds of things. And one of the reasons for having this Saturday morning webinar series is to make sure we can review each one, remind ourselves how to use them, and templates come in favor and out of favor just as markets change, and so it's important to know what's there. And another reason for the webinar series is to explain more about what's going on in the software and just help you make the most out of the software. So templates range from all kinds of different things that they can do. There are templates in the system that are, I would call them very specialized templates, such as the recent relative strength and ranking template. That's something that is not really something that an end user can write because it involves a lot of coding behind the scenes. But then there are templates, and the majority of templates in the system, which are scanning type templates. And we've got templates in the system from a lot of expert traders, people who have their own systems that they trade, people who've written books. We've got Morales and Catcher over there on the left-hand side. We've got Ian, Ron, and Jeff from HDSI. A lot of the templates came from talking with those guys. George Lee in the lower part of the screen there with the red hat. There's a lot of scanning templates in the system from his request. And then there's the question mark. This can represent anybody, and today that is going to represent you. So you can go ahead and write your own template, scanning template, and it'll be very customized to your own requirements. So the agenda, we're going to get into the types of templates you can create. And there are two. I mentioned there's a scanning type template, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But there's also another type of template called a history template. So it's history template and the scanning template, which actually is I call a last bar template. So we'll get into that. There is a couple of starter templates that are created just this morning. Well, it's kind of been in the works this week, but I put them online this morning. I'll show you where to get those. The essential elements of Excel that you are going to have to know in order to write a template. And then we'll look at how to add a column of scripted output into a template, how to add a calculated column so you can do some calculations in Excel, use some of the Excel features to create values based on other columns. We'll talk about how to format columns, and then how can you tie a template into a particular chart layout. And at the end, there'll be time for Q&A. So as you can see, quite a lot to get through. I want to get started with the requirements, which in order to do what I'm going to do today, you need to have a working copy of EdgeRater Pro. That would be either the forever license, the license where you've got the program, you keep and use it forever, or the subscription version where you're paying monthly for the to use the software. Either of those will work. And then Microsoft Excel. These templates are written using Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel is not needed to run a template, but if you're going to create your own, then you need to have Excel. Now, I did mention the two types of user templates, and those two types of templates are the history template Examples of the history templates in the system are US market summary, Hindenburg Omen, that kind of thing. I'll show an example of what they are, but it's basically you get dates on the row. The rows will have dates going down, and then information will be in the various columns. And that was the very first type of template that was ever in the system. And then there's this last bar template or scanning template, and examples of that would be the good, bad, ugly template, squeeze template, linear regression, etc. And in those templates, the rows are actually stocks or tickers, and they correspond to whatever ticker that you have in your symbol list. So we'll talk about that too. There is, I mentioned, I have put together a couple of starter templates. So you can find them in the shared folder locations. If you go to this location here, edgerater.com /shared folder, it will bring up you have to do that on your browser. You'll come to the OneDrive. These are stored on the OneDrive. Look under template utilities, and you'll find a starter history template, XLSX, and a starter last bar template, XLSX. What you need to do is download each of those individually, or you can download them both together. If you do that, though, that'll end up as a zip file, and you have to unzip it. But when you finally have extracted the XLSX files, you then need to copy them into your EdgeClub folder, which is under your documents, EdgeRater, and then EdgeClub. You'll notice under EdgeClub there's also a system folder. Do not put the files in there. The system folder is for the templates that are delivered as part of EdgeRater. If you have the ongoing subscription to get new templates, they get put into the system folder. If you change anything in the system folder, it's very likely it's going to be overwritten when you do the next update of templates. So stay away from touching anything in the system folder and just put it in the root EdgeClub folder. So that is basically how to get started with the starter templates. And now we're going to jump into the program. Okay. So once you've gone through those steps, downloading the file, sticking it in your EdgeClub folder, when you come into EdgeRater and you click on your My Templates, okay, this is the category over here on the right-hand side. You've got a My Templates category. You should see the Starter History template and Starter Last Bar template. And you can, obviously, just like any other template in the system, you can just select them like that, and that will change. A point of note, whilst preparing for this topic, I discovered a bug in the program, which I've also found a fix for the bug, but that fix will not be available until probably tomorrow. So if you try this today and you have the right conditions on your system, whenever you open up Excel and you start modifying these files, your EdgeRater program could crash. And the reason for that is that there is a conflict between having a template open in Excel and EdgeRater trying to read that template as well to get information from it. That has been fixed. So if you come across that problem, don't worry, there is a fix for it. It is quite annoying, but it only will show up if you have got your documents folder attached to your OneDrive folder. So if you have that situation, you're going to find a little crashing going on, but that will be fixed as of tomorrow. Okay, so having said that, here's what I'm going to do. So you've got the, let me bring back my folder. So now, once you've downloaded the files, the starter templates to the right location, you've put them in, you've run EdgeRater, you can see the templates. Also, you can open up an Excel, a version of Excel of the file. So here I have just opened up in Excel the starter history template. I'm briefly going to talk about the history template. I'm not going to spend so much time on this. The most important template for today is going to be the last bar template or the scanning template, because that's where the majority of your the majority of templates in the system have used that as a starter. But the history template is just an interesting point to note too. In general, a template is laid out that it has a template info worksheet. And if you're not overly familiar with Excel, it's not that important. I will explain the main points that you need to know as we go through this. And as you start working on templates, you will become more familiar. But let's just get some basic terminology out of the way to start with. Excel, when you open up an Excel file, XLSX, it is a workbook that you're opening up. And the workbook contains multiple worksheets. And the worksheets are down here. So you've got a template info worksheet, a summary worksheet, and a parameters worksheet in this particular starter template. And with any EdgeRater template, there is always a template info worksheet. And that is the information that gets displayed to you when you first view the template. Now, so you see I have starter history template listed here in EdgeRater. Now, if I come over to my template and I say, just change the name of this and then save it, you can do my save up here, you'll see that the EdgeRater screen also changes. So any changes you make in Excel, once you save that file, it will get reloaded into EdgeRater. And so that's a good way to work with the program. That's the way I always write templates. I have them both side by side, and I'll make changes, save it, and it will immediately be picked up by EdgeRater. So this template is the main point of this template, and I'm just going to run it so that you can see what happens when you run this template. Starter history template, it's running, and the report that it produces is basically a line-by-line date. There's a date column, and it goes through as much history as you have told it to fetch, and I'll tell you how to change that in the template as well. But if you scroll up to the very top of the list, you'll see this one goes to 7/13/2016, and it comes all the way down to the last day, 7/12/2019. And we've got in this template, this is a starter template, it's just an example, and you can go ahead and change these, but you can see there are symbols in the columns. Let's bring back the template in Excel. Starter history template. Okay, here are the symbols in the column. So EdgeRater knows that this is a history type template because in the parameter sheet, it has actually just got this designation of user template. Historically, this was the only template, or the very first template style that was ever in the system, and so it was given the name. That's the user template. And since then, we've got these last bar templates. So just know that history type template is called this user template. So the EdgeRater, when it reads a template, it will look for the parameter sheet. It will look for a template type, and it will pick that up, and it will then know this is the kind of template you're writing, and it will know what to do with it. And what EdgeRater says about this is it will try and repeat dates down the rows. It will look for designations of symbols in the columns. And it will look for, if you have no formula associated with those symbols, it's going to put the close price of that symbol into the row for the correct date. Any template, when you first open it, will always have one row of data, which allows you to do formatting for the information. Another thing that's really important with a template is there are certain defined names, and this is an Excel concept that you really need to understand in order to be able to write EdgeRater templates. Named ranges, extremely important. So a named range in Excel, you can find by coming up to the formulas section of Excel and clicking on Name Manager. It'll pop up this little window here. And one thing you'll find in every EdgeRater template is an ER, anything designated with ER underscore, that stands for EdgeRater. That's just prefixed with ER, so it avoids any collision with any other defined names in any worksheet that you're using. But ER underscore data, it refers to, and then here you've got what it refers to, the summary worksheet, and this is the range of cells that it refers to. If you want to visually see what that is, you can click on this little arrow here, and Excel will highlight. We'll put this little, dotted line box around the name, the range that it has defined. So ER data is this data line here. When you're writing a template, you only define one data line, and that gets repeated then for, in the case of a history template, for all of the dates, and in the case of a last bar template, for all of the symbols. Okay, so that is named ranges. Now, in a history template, the important named ranges are anything with ERF underscore. That's EdgeRater formula. And in this case, ERF refers to this range up here. Talk about that in a minute. ERS underscore refers to symbol, and that is this range here. So EdgeRater is going to look at this worksheet and it's going to say, what is the ERS range? This is it here. I'm going to assume everything in this range is a symbol, and I'm going to use that to generate the data for the rows. Now, as I said before, because the first set of columns here, B through J, do not have any formulas associated with them, it's just going to output the closing price into the rows. These columns over here, K, L, and M, have the symbol MSFT, as Microsoft, but they also have an ERF. This is the formula. And a formula is a script in EdgeRater. It's one of those chart scripts that you write, that you drag onto a chart. It contains indicators, it contains scans, all kinds of things are done with chart scripts. But you can refer to those chart scripts in a formula, something designated with ERF in Excel. And in this case, they refer to, let's look at what is in here, and they're grayed out, so just darkened, and that's just a formatting style that when I put a template together, I tend to do this because it's not an interesting part of the template as far as the user view is concerned. It's important for running the template, but you're not that interested, or the end user should not be interested, it is not interested in the actual name of the formula that's being used to generate the output. The way that you designate what the output is you might put a description below that in the template. But, and just to show you this is just formatting, you can come to the home here and you can just say, just make that bold. So now you can see the formulas associated with these columns are BB, Bollinger Bands, square brackets, upper. So it's looking for the upper Bollinger Band, BB, square brackets mid, BB, square brackets lower. Having got that, that's how that works. It's just to give you an idea of this template. And we're going to go over to last bar templates and do most of the work in there. So just so you know, the history template works like this. 1 day per line. You can define symbols. If you don't define a formula for the symbol, it's going to output the close price. If you want to output something other than the close price, you have to define a formula. If you wanted to output the high or the open or the low, the formula would just be H, O, or L, or any other chart script can be defined for that too. If you want to increase the range of data, so you want to use all of the columns, you have to change your named range so that it includes all of the columns that you've added. And you have to designate any symbol or formula cell, a symbol cell with ERS, and a formula cell with ERF for F for formula. Okay, so that's that. Let's go, I won't save that. Let's go and we're going to now focus on a last bar template. Before I do that, just note that after I ran this template, the starter history template, note what happened on the left-hand side. It has created a symbol list called Excel report symbols, because in order to produce the data for the template, it had to create a data snapshot containing all of those symbols. And so it went ahead and did that. And you can see it's got Microsoft in there, and then all of those sector ETFs are there too. So it's gone ahead and just created that, and it's now made that your active symbol list. So whenever you run a history type template, you will find your active symbol list will be changed to Excel report symbols, and that will contain all the data that's being used for that template. That's all I'm going to say about history templates. So let's move on to last bar templates. Now, last bar template, in this case, I'm just going to run this against the CBOE weeklies list. It's a smaller list than the all USA list. And so when you're developing a template, when I'm developing a template, I like to run it against a small list, sometimes even smaller than this. This has 500 symbols in. But so if things are taking a long time to run, I might even cut that down and just have 1 or 2 symbols, and that will work very quickly. But in general, 500 symbols is really fine and works pretty quickly. So I tend to just use the CBOE weeklies for as my active list when I'm developing a last bar template. Let's look at the starter template for last bar over here. Okay, so open up Excel on your last bar template. The information page, again, you've got template info. This is shown when you are looking at the template in EdgeRater, and it does explain what you have to do with this in order to use this as a starting point for creating your own template. Copy it and save it to the EdgeClub folder, and then it will appear under the My Templates category. The name of the template will appear in EdgeRater is set in the parameters worksheet. So let's talk about that. That's kind of important. You notice in EdgeRater over here, it says starter last bar template. And the file that I've opened up is starter last bar template. It's got no spaces in it, but there's spaces in this name over here. So how did that happen? In the parameters worksheet, the template type for this is the last bar values, but look under name, starter last bar template. If I change that to my awesome template and click on save, you'll note in EdgeRater, it now is named My Awesome Template. But let's call it, let's just call it starter last bar template. Okay. So you don't really have to change too much in the parameters tab. Leave it as a last bar values type of template. That signifies to EdgeRater that it's all it's trying to do is get the last bar of data for every symbol in your list and show it a symbol per row. Max look back is an important setting. You probably do want to set this to some value that's reasonable for the type of template that you're writing. If your template is using a 200 period moving average, then you need to have at least 200 bars that you're going to look back in the data. So you might want to set that to more than 200. The reason that you wouldn't want to set that to every single bar of data, wouldn't want to set that to say 100,000 bars look back. The only reason you wouldn't want to do that is that the processing time will be extended when you run the template, because it's then going to actually go through and run the formula for all bars, all symbols, and it's only going to extract the very last bar of information and show that in the template. So there's a lot of unnecessary processing going on in that case. So 500 is probably a good starting level. If you've got formulas that extend beyond that, then obviously just increase that number. That is fine, but probably leave it at 500 until you run into issues. There's a chart layouts tab. I will explain about this in a minute, but this, you've probably seen a lot of templates are linked to their own special layout and or chart layout, and this is where it's defined. I'll show you how to set that up as we get through that. And then the values sheet. The values worksheet. The values worksheet is essentially where the data gets, when you run the template, the data is going to get put into this value sheet. And I'm going to go through the essential parts of that. I see a couple of questions here, so let's just take a look. Yeah, okay, I answered that one, Thomas, about, I think. Jerry, the starter templates in the shared folder. So it's, you have to go onto the internet, edgerater.com /shared folder. Let me just show that again. That's the shared folder location. You'll find the starter templates under template utilities. Version of Excel, it really doesn't matter. I mean, it has to be at least the 2013 version, but if you have Office 365, then you're going to have the latest version of Excel, which is 2019, I believe. But I think you at least need the 2013 version. Okay. All right, so starter last bar template. Let's take a look at the important things here. Named ranges, again, it's very, very important. This is not going to work if you don't have named ranges. So come to your formulas section in Excel, look at your name manager, and here's all the named ranges. So we still have an ER_data range. And if I click this little arrow here, we'll see that is this row of data. This essentially at this point, because this is a template, this is just a sample row of data. And really the only purpose of having that in there is that you can format that how you want. And all of the rows that then get put into the report will be formatted in exactly the way you formatted this row here. There is a really important column in here called the date col that is set to this column here. And that just means that dates are going to be populated. The date that you've chosen for your last bar is going to be put in here. If you haven't set a date specifically in EdgeRater when you run a template, it's going to run it on the last bar of data, which in this case will be Friday. But you can run any of these templates, scanning templates, for any prior date. When if you set that up in EdgeRater, that date will be populated in this column. So ER date is the important named range. ER header row, very important. That is basically signifying to EdgeRater that these are clickable cells, that when you click on them, it's going to sort the data either ascending or descending, depending on how many times you click it. But it just enables that clickability for those cells there. ER symbol col, another extremely important column here. That's column A. And this is just going to be where all of the symbols from your active symbol list are going to appear in whatever column you've designated as your symbol col. Okay, so they're going to appear down here in column A. And let's see, what else is really important here? Okay, so again, we're talking about ERF, which is your formulas. You can have multiple formula ranges because you can have formulas spread around the worksheet. And if you have multiples, you can't give them the same name. So you have to, this is the reason why they're called ERF underscore and ERF underscore 1. And if you had another range, it would be ERF underscore 2 or whatever you want to call it. All EdgeRater cares about is that it's an ERF. That's what it looks for. If we click on the arrow here, we'll see that that is set to this range up here. You'll note that not every one of these cells is populated with a formula, and that's fine. It's just EdgeRater is just going to look in that range, and if there is data in there, it's going to assume that that's a formula that it's going to run. ERF underscore 1 is this range up here. And then a really interesting part of these last bar templates is ERFO, and that stands for EdgeRater Formula Output Line, and that is set to this range down here. All right, let's explain about that. This is quite an important aspect. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to just make this, bold this up so we can see what we're talking about. So this template, the purpose of this template is to run the formula Bollinger Band, run the Bollinger Band formula, which the name of that chart script is BB. I'll show you how to find script names later. And then within the BB script, there are some output lines. There's upper, there's a mid, and a lower. And the ERFO is where you're designating which output line you want to pick up to put into the values sheet here. Now you'll notice also in the header row, you can designate here whatever you want, whatever makes sense when you're viewing the worksheet, because the names of the output lines in the chart scripts, these names here, might not make a lot of sense to you when you're viewing the worksheet. They make sense to the script, but you can change them to whatever you want. And EdgeRater doesn't care what you put in here, so you could say this is my my special line, output line, and EdgeRater will still run this using the BB upper. The reason, if you're interested, the reason that you have a separate formula and output line designation is just it makes it the template, when you're writing a template, a lot easier to specify, rather than what you could also do is you could say this is going to be BB upper. Okay, you could get rid of this, and this is going to be BB mid, and this is going to be BB lower. Okay, you could have that kind of setup going on, and get rid of those, and also then delete your ERFO line because you're not using that anymore. And EdgeRater would do exactly the same thing, except now this has become a little more cumbersome for you to write, and also EdgeRater will then run these scripts 3 separate times in order to get the data, but you don't need to run them 3 separate times. So you can really improve the speed of your template by putting them as one script, BB, and then put the name of the output line into here. And the way that EdgeRater figures out what line the script belongs to is it just looks up and says, this is designated as an output line, the lower. What is the formula that line is coming from? It goes up and to the left, and it looks for an ERF designated cell. And the first ERF it comes to is BB. So it's going to look for the lower script output in the BB formula. Okay. So let's go. I'm just going to run this so you can see what this kind of template will produce. Let's hit run. I've got my CBOEs selected. All right. So the output from this, the report that's generated from the template, is as you would expect. You've got your list of symbols. Okay, and we go to row all the way down here, rows up to row 528. We have the close price, the date, the volume, and then these formulas have been run now. So we've got BB, the upper Bollinger Band, mid Bollinger Band, and lower Bollinger Band levels for all of these. There's in the starter template this area here, which just, if you started to do filtering, so say I filter number filters, I'm going to filter for close price greater than 10 in a final report, then this output up here is just going to go and say, well, now you're only looking at 521. You're looking at 521, but only 468 of those are visible because you've filtered out some. So that's 90% of the list is now visible based on your filtering criteria. So that's that. All right, so that's the basics of that. We'll talk now about how to add some extra columns and how to link to chart layouts. Let's do chart layout linking first. If I click on a cell, so you can see the difference essentially. Okay, so I have got on my chart, I've got link to template layout set. As you can see, that is highlighted. But my template doesn't have any linking yet. So what that means is as I go down through the list, I'm updating the chart, but the layout is whatever layout I've chosen. Okay, I could have chosen free parking layout. It's my favorite layout maybe, and then I would be just scrolling down through here, and I'm always looking at the layout that I like to look at. Okay, but some of the templates, and when you write your own templates, you're going to have a specific chart layout in mind that goes along with that template, and it might be different for every column. So in this case, we've got 3 columns, right? BB, upper, mid, and lower. That seems to make sense that that relates to a specific chart layout. So the way that you would designate a chart layout is as follows. First of all, build your chart in the chart window. And I have one that I already built, so I'm not going to get into that. There are videos on how to build a chart layout, but I've got I've called it my BB layout. Okay, it doesn't matter what it's called in here, but this is what it is. It's got volume down here. It's got the area, Bollinger Bands with a shaded area here, and it's got a couple of moving averages in here. Now, say I wanted to show this layout whenever I'm clicking in my report. The way that I do that is I come into the template in Excel, look at the chart layouts tab. Right now you see there's nothing in there. And so what you need to do is basically find the script or add the script into the area scripts section here, and also add the sizes for the different areas and the data cycle. That would be either day, week, or month or year over here. Now, the tricky thing is, how do you know what the area scripts are? Because I've got the area scripts over here, but I don't really know how to specify that in my template. So it is explained up here, the chart layouts tab or chart layouts worksheet. Is what you have to do is you've got your chart over here, you save the layout. So you do save chart layout, you call it, I've called this one, my area Bollinger Band, my area BB. And you can see that I've named it that, and it's called my BB chart, sorry. Right, so then you come to your file system, and that is explained in the text up there, and you come to, yours is going to look slightly different from mine because this is a development machine, but here we go. We come to configuration, so we're under EdgeRater, we're under configuration, we come to chart layouts. Look at my layouts XML. It's a text file you can open, and it's got a list of all those layouts that you saw in the program under my layouts. You can scroll down to the very last one that was added. It's called my BB chart, and here under area scripts is what you need. Okay, so just copy that, Control C, copy that, and put that into area scripts here. That's all you need to do. Comment doesn't really matter. For sizes, you can use the sizes here, area sizes, and this is just a ratio, and it really depends on how you've set your chart up as to what that ratio shows, but for here it's showing that. And then for cycle, you can take the cycle down here, or the period, and that's day 1. So I can put that into here too. All right, now if I save this, you'll note that my template now, go back to EdgeRater templates. Well, first of all, notice that the template, the first page that's shown on the template is now the chart layouts page, because I saved it with chart layouts being the first worksheet. So it doesn't matter when you're developing it, what you save this as, but when you finally have it ready for finalized and you're going to start using it, save it with template info as being the first worksheet. That way, EdgeRater will show that information, so you know what it is before you run it. And now if I run this template, it's produced the same report, but now if you look under chart layouts, we've actually got this information here. And what that means is it's dynamically linked to that layout. So the way you can test that is you can choose a different layout over here, and then you can start to scroll down through here, and you'll see the layout immediately changes to the layout that you specified. It's possible to have different layouts for different columns. Let's see how we're doing on time. Okay. Yeah, it's possible to have different layouts for different columns, and the way that you would do that is over in chart layouts, outer last bar template. Let's bring that up. I won't explain exactly how to do this, but I will just copy over into here something just to give you an idea. Basically, this worksheet is defining a range of values that are going to be active or sensitive to your click, and then it's defining the scripts that are going to be put into the chart whenever you click on those cells. And this is the way that you would do it if you had different columns of data. And this formatting here is purely Excel formatting. So the way that it defines that range, that is an Excel function. So you can look up on Excel ranges to figure out how to format these properly, or just look at any other EdgeRater template and go into the chart layouts tab and you'll see examples of how this is put together. But you could say in this case, look, I've got column F, EdgeRater, column F is associated the way it was before, but now I've got column G is now associated with just the area BB. There's no moving average on here and there's no volume below here. So if I save that, let's just come over here and save that. Now if I run this template, it's produced a report, and now I come down my list. I'm looking at column F, it's one particular layout. If I come over to column G, I'm now looking at the other layout without the volume. You see how that works? All right, so that's how you designate different layouts for your template. Now, how do you add new data? Okay. So let's go to Chart Designer. If you're in Chart Designer tab or any of the chart, the pop-up chart window too, and look over on Chart Scripts, these are essentially the scripts in EdgeRater that you can use to put onto a chart, or also this is what templates use to get data. So it has to, any data you want to put in a template has to be in a script. So there's plenty of scripts in here already that you might want to use, or you can actually write your own. I'm not going to get into, there's no time today, but we will get into that in a future webinar, how to actually put your own script together. But today we're just going to use some of the scripts that already exist in the system. You see there's plenty of them here. And something that's really not talked about much is there's a whole section of just candle pattern scans at the bottom of this list. You've got things like your 2 crows, your 3 black crows, your 3 inside bars, your line strike, all of the candle patterns, your dojis are listed down here. So you can put any of these, you could make a template that had all of these in if you wanted, and you would get essentially your column that you get. There's probably 50 of those in here. You could have 50 columns of the candle bars. So let me show you how you could, I'll just put one in and I'll show you how to do that. And I think the one I'll choose is doji. And if I, so these scripts work on a chart, but they also work in a template. If I double click it, it's going to add it to the chart. And here you can see the result of that. There's a 1 value whenever there's a doji. Okay, so we can see this is a doji, this is doji, this is doji. As far as this script is concerned, these are defined as doji bars. Okay, so say then I wanted to add a column of whenever there was a doji in the system, whenever there's a doji in a stock on a particular day, I want to get that information. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing is you need to know the name of the script. And you see it is called CDL doji. But because it's in a special section here, which actually exists as a separate chart script file on your file system, it actually has this name, but it also has a pre part to that name. The best way I found to figuring out the name that you should use is come to your templates tab, come down to Pro Tools, and a recent template is the relative strength ranking and indexing. Has this button on here where you can choose a chart script, and this will list every script in the system. And if we come down and find that doji script, it's all the way down here. Okay, doji here. All right, I select that, and it will here show me the outputs that are available to choose, and there's only one. It's called event. If I click OK here, it's actually going to put the name that I need to use into this orange highlight. So it's talib.cdl doji is the name of the script. So let me copy that. All right, I've done a Control C there. Got that over here. Now I want to add a column that is CDL Doji. So remember the important things here. All right, the important things are we've got ranges that are important. So the first thing I'm going to do is just add the line, and I'm going to add it here, TALib CDL Doji, and the name of the output is event. I'm actually going to take it. I could just leave it like that, but I'm going to do it the way that this other one's been done over here with the name of the formula and then the name of the output. All right, and I'm going to say here, I'll just say this is Doji. You'll note when you add a column, it doesn't automatically add your filtering auto filter drop down. So what I normally do is just highlight those, come over to the data tab, click on filter, click it on and off, and that will add the auto filter back in. Need to give it a format. The format for this, it's a 1 or a 0. So this is interesting. We'll get into that in a minute. Sometimes when things are a 1 or a 0 value, it's much easier to see them if you put a yes or a no for the 1 or 0. For now, I'm just going to put this format is just 1. Okay. And this is a useful thing in Excel. Format Painter. Click on any cell, Format Painter, copy that format to the cell, another cell, so you can copy formatting across. It's a very handy feature. You should definitely make use of that. Okay, now I'm going to save this. Now it's not going to work. Just want to show you though what happens when it doesn't, when you've done something like this and you haven't done all of the named ranges properly. Come to last bar template. You can see that information is there. Let's run the template. Okay, it ran. Here's the information. Here's the report. Okay, hasn't actually filled this row, this column in with all the rows information. Reason for that is we haven't actually hooked up the named ranges. All right, so let's go back to formulas, come to name manager, and you'll see that the ERF underscore 1 range is right here. Only goes up to column H. I'm going to extend that over. Shift and click, you can extend it. You press that little button here. All of this stuff is Excel functionality, so I'm not going to get into Excel functionality. You can always look that up online, but this will give you an idea of what you need to be doing and how I do it. And now, so now if you click on it, it's this whole extended all the way across here, so that's good. Also need to change the ERFO. This is your output line. Extend that all the way across. It's still not going to work because we need to extend ERData all the way across over to here as well. So now we've extended everything over, over a little bit. And save this. Okay. And then let's run this template again. All right, so now you can see we have data filled in. And we can sort. So we've sorted now by everything that has a doji. And you can verify that just by bringing your chart up over here and scroll down through your list. Just expand that up a bit. Now everything here has got there's a doji on the last bar, so you can easily find those. Okay. But as I said before, one thing that's important when you're viewing this is it doesn't often help if you've got a page full of information with just ones and zeros, and you know, say you did put all 50 of those candle patterns into a template, and you had you know, ones and zeros all throughout the report. Sometimes it's not so easy to see where the ones and the zeros are, and so yeses and blanks are often good. Yeses and nos can work too. But the absence of information, so for instance, if there's no doji, that's an absence of a doji. I don't like to say no or 0 in those cases. I like to leave that blank because you know, there's no point in making that space contain something that just distracts your eye and prevents you from seeing the things you're really interested in. So that's all about formatting in Excel. Okay, so right now this is formatted as in a standard way. As if you click on the cell, it will tell you the formatting. It's formatted as general formatting. So that's fine, but we can do better. We can say we're going to choose custom formatting here. And custom formatting gives us an opportunity to do, and you often have to look up this because sometimes I get confused about this, and I'll look at older templates to find out how to do this properly. But there is a way of specifying a format for this, for the yeses and nos. Probably the best thing you can do to get that correct is bring up an older template, an existing template, all right, and you'll find them on your file system. First of all, find an example of something you want to copy. So I'll come down to, let's see, we've got quite a few templates with yeses and nos in various columns. Let's choose, we'll come to the hot topics category. Let's see over here. What does this one have? Yeah, this one has a bunch of nos here. So if we open up the Guppy multiple moving average template in Excel, all right, so let's come to EdgeClub. This is under system. Remember, I said don't change anything here, but it's fine to it's fine to actually open it as an example. So it's Guppy MMA. All right, come to the values. Click on here. Remember, this format painter, you can actually copy formats between worksheets. So I'll press this. That's copied the format onto my clipboard, and I'll come over to my last bar template, and I'll just click on this cell here. And now that's changed the formatting. And if we click on, you'll now see it's custom formatting. And if you click on the drop down here, you'll see the way that you would specify this if you didn't want to do the copying from a previous template is you'd specify it like this with a blue, yes, red, no. But if you didn't want red, no, as I was saying, you often don't want that. You could say red, blank. And then if I change that to a 0 value, that should be a blank. If I change it to a 1 value, that'll be a yes. Okay, then all you do is save that. I'll get rid of close down the Guppy MMA. I'm closing down all my reports. You'll find as you start developing templates and you're running reports a lot, you'll end up with a lot of reports open. And so occasionally go through and just close these all down so as not to confuse myself when a new report comes up and I don't remember if it was from an old run or the latest run. So yeah, plenty of those. Right, so we'll then bring back the program. We'll come back over to the templates. All right, we've got our formatting in here. We'll then run this. And now you can see under Doji, we have yeses when there is Doji and blanks when there isn't. And if you have created 50 columns with all of those different candle patterns, which is probably not a bad idea to try and do that as an example. And once you've got the hang of doing one, it's really very straightforward to do the others because you can do a lot of copy and pasting. Now it's much easier to see. And now you can do filtering such as I only want to see yes dojis. And so I filtered by yes dojis and yeah, so now we can see that there are 73 out of that list of 521 symbols that have a doji. 14% of stocks in that list have a doji. Okay, we are getting close. Just a couple minutes. I want to just go through the questions and see what there is. I know we kind of flew through this, but we do have the recording is available. Will be available later today. Email will be sent out tomorrow automatically by the webinar software. But you know where to find the recording. It's always under the EdgeRater. Let me show you. Well, it's where you signed up for this webinar. So everyone knows that, right? So if you come to EdgeRater, come to support and webinar schedule. When the recording's ready, it will be under here under view replay. All right, let's take a look at any questions. I know there's a lot of stuff in here, so I would just recommend experimenting with it. Okay, most questions answered. And Thomas, I believe I answered that. How do you get a yes or no instead of 0 or 1? Good. Okay, all questions answered. Awesome. Right. you'll probably have a lot more questions when you try to do this. Remember also that there is this bug that there'll be a new version of the program coming out tomorrow. There's no book, for sure, there's no book on this. All Excel functionality you can find online under Excel references. I don't have a specific reference. Often the Microsoft reference for Excel is good, but I often do just a Google search for, if you did a Google search for named ranges in Excel, you'll find lots of good information there. What's the advantage of using a template over a chart script? Well, a chart script is what you actually have to use eventually in your template. The template is the thing that picks out the data from the chart script and puts it into a report. Chart script is just the formula that calculates the data, and that can be used to either put it onto a chart itself. Let's choose, Hull moving average, for instance. You could just drag that over onto the chart. It's a chart script. It's calculating data, and in this case, it's just putting it onto the chart. If you put it into a template, it's going to put the actual numbers for the last bar of that chart of the Hull moving average. If you're using a last bar template, it will put the value. You can see Hull moving average is 2569, so it would put 2569 into the row for AMJ in this case. If you're using the history template, it would put 2569 for today, and then it will go back one day, Thursday, and it would put the value on Thursday, which is 2559, etc., going back all the way through the history. Also, as a note, next weekend I'm going to be traveling, so there's not going to be a webinar next weekend. So the next webinar will be the weekend after that, Saturday morning again. Is there a manual shows the syntax of the commands for the software you're using as base? If you're talking about Excel, as I said, just on online for Excel, all of the formatting for the essential parts of hooking Excel, the essential parts that you need to use to create an EdgeRater template are essentially what I went through today, which is the named ranges. Let me just review that. I think it's a very important topic. So the essential elements of a last bar template. First of all, parameter sheet. Under template type is last underscore bar underscore values. Under the name, it's whatever name you want to appear in EdgeRater. And then this is where the values sheet is where all of the data is shown. And this has several named ranges that are very important. The first one is this range here. If you highlight it, the whole range, you'll see that the window here, this is your name box, will actually show you what the named range is. So this is EdgeRater. And I know I'm going through this quickly, but this is really Excel. This is really Excel stuff, and you will become familiar with Excel as you go through this. So this is your EdgeRater range. It's just telling EdgeRater, when you name it like that, that this is the range. This is the range of data that's going to contain calculated data that it needs to populate. The ERF ranges, important. This one up here, ERF underscore 1, that contains the formula or the chart script, the name of the chart script that you're going to run. ERF underscore, ERFO, or anything that starts with the ERFO is a formula output. That's the output line of the script. And in the case of the BB script, it contains 3 output lines, upper, mid, and lower. If you want to know what those lines are, you can always come back to the chart, as I was explaining before, look at the script, and it will tell you what the output lines are. The row here, ER header row, that just tells EdgeRater that these are now going to be clickable headers that should sort whenever you click on them. This column here, column A, ER symbol col, that's important. That just tells EdgeRater it's going to populate 1 symbol per row, into this column. There is date call here. That's just going to populate the date that you run the report is going to be populated in here. And what else? There is, if we look at this set of columns here, this is also a formula row, and it's only got 3 formulas. There's a description formula. It's not really a formula, but it's signifying that the description for the ticker should come in here. That'll be the company name. Close, that is a formula. That will just populate close price, and then V will populate the volume. And volume has some special formatting, custom formatting, so that it gives you, instead of having a huge number, like volume is 600,000 today, it will just say 600 and then put a K by it. And that's a custom Excel formatting. And you can look up on the internet how to put that together, which is how I got it. But that's what it looks like. But you don't really have to worry about that. That's the only case I found where you need to get that type of formatting. And then, yeah, formatting works, as I said, just any Excel formatting that you apply to this row here will appear in your spreadsheet. We didn't talk about, you can do coloring, like conditional formatting. So you could say if BB upper, this is not a good example because Bollinger Band upper could be any level depending on what stock. You could have a low price stock or a high price stock. But you could do something like, I want to highlight the cell if this value is greater than, let's say 50. All right, so if we type to 50 in here or 60 in here, that will be highlighted red. If we type a 40 in here, that's going to be not. So you can test your formatting by typing into the template. Now, if you run this template, come back over to templates, and now we've got highlighted in red. These are the formats because they're all above. All of these are above 50, but that just means they're higher price stocks essentially. But you can do all kinds of conditional formatting. They're all respected by EdgeRater. I know you're changing them in Excel and you're setting them up in Excel, but EdgeRater reads that information, and the spreadsheet component within EdgeRater is able to work in a very similar way to Excel for showing the data. Okay. All right. If you think of any questions, and send an email, and if we get a lot of questions together, I will try and answer them in a future webinar on this topic. If this is something of interest, I'll judge the interest by, how many questions there are. Let me know if you like this ability, if you feel like it's something that you would do, or if you just think it's something that's beyond you, or if you think you can grasp it, then I would be interested to know too. Great, thanks, Ghana. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, everybody. Rajiv, Jose. Great, Dan, thanks. Plan to have more. Wojtek, yes, I understand you like it. Good, that's great. I definitely would like to do more on this too. Thanks, Brock. Recording will get done, probably be ready this afternoon sometime, but the email to the link to the recording won't go out till tomorrow, but you know where to find it. And then we will do a session at some point as well on creating your own chart script, because that gives you exceedingly such a lot of flexibility then in terms of what you can put into a template. You can essentially write anything you can do in a chart script, which is pretty much everything. You can then populate into a template. We'll talk, Dan. We'll talk about that. Great, thanks, Praful. All right. Have a great rest of your weekend, and see you in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.